Fast forward to later in 2015, we began a conversation with Arizona State University, led by Edmundo as our primary contact, about locating a call center on campus in Tempe, serving a global financial services company named PayPal, which everyone will be familiar with. We actually opened that center and commenced with that program work in May of 2016, opening with great fanfare. And today, almost 300 students work in agent and leadership positions in that center. It's been a fantastic partnership. We couldn't be more excited about it, and we're excited to be able to announce in fairly short order, we think, an expansion of that program via the opening of another center on campus. So today, Education at Work is approximately 500 students working in 3 campus centers, 1 at ASU, 2 in the Cincinnati area. We also operate a fairly sizable staff augmentation program on site for a large financial services company in Cincinnati. We have multiple additional campuses which have raised their hand and indicated an interest in having us put a center there. We have conversations underway with a number of institutions. Again, when Strata looked at EAW, the idea was, here's something that literally could employ tens of thousands of students on dozens of campuses across the country, and in the process, mitigate hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, in student loan indebtedness, while at the same time, providing meaningful skills for these students. We measure our impact really in 3 dimensions at EAW. Number 1 is this issue of financial support. A student working 15 hours a week can earn between market level wages and generous tuition support enough money to defray the cost of tuition at just about any public institution in the country. Second dimension is basically career readiness skill provision. Students are not only receiving professional program training from professional trainers in a professional work environment, but where there's also a deep emphasis on soft career readiness skills, things like critical thinking, problem solving, leadership, teamwork, being organized, showing up on time, knowing how to dress, just those basic things that a prospective employer is going to want a candidate for an entry-level position to possess. And then the third dimension, which we're developing more formally now, is this idea of a talent pipeline, this idea of connecting a student, a prospective employee, with the client, a prospective employer for a post-graduation permanent job, and basically creating ways for the client and the student to engage with each other over multiple semesters that the student is employed at EAW, so they literally can get to know each other, test each other, and decide whether this is a good fit going forward. So that's an introduction to EAW. I think Mike now is going to talk about Road Trip Nation.
Sure.
Great.
So Road Trip Nation, we put students on road trips. Every summer, we send out a fleet of ginormous green motorhomes to go across America and interview people from various walks of life and different career paths and learn how they got to where they are today. We then have a 70-person team back in Southern California, half of which are on our production studio side, where they produce the content around the road trips in a very much like a 21st century production way, where when we produce content from a road trip, we post-produce it for a million different reasons. One is our media platform through public television, which reaches about 60 to 80 million households every year. You might have seen like our 1-hour specials or episodic content on PBS. But then we also have a school network of about 12,000 high schools all across America who are using our Road Trip Nation interview archive, which is a library of 5,000 videos of people from different career paths talking about how they got to where they are today. We know that we're not going to put every kid in America in a green motorhome. We think that would be a great thing to do. But our mission is not to put students on road trips per se, it's to help them, empower them to define their own roads in life. And so that's where we take the content development piece of it really seriously, because by using 21st century production models to kind of really take that experience from the road and create a database of people's stories, we can really increase the visibility of what students think they can do with their futures, in a sense of social capital, especially kids from backgrounds where they don't have accountants living down the street, or their parents are entrepreneurs or engineers or rocket scientists. It started 15 years ago now, our team, we like to say we're recent college grads, but our team always corrects us that we're not recent college grads anymore, which is kind of sad, but we were recent college grads at one point, and we didn't really know what we wanted to do with our life, and so we got in an old green motorhome that's not as nice as the ones now, and we went across America and interviewed people from all walks of life and asked them how they got to where they are today. And there was Forbes magazine did a very small article on that road trip that came out probably 3 months after we got home, and it led to a book contract with Random House. The book came out about 12 years ago now, and it didn't sell that great, but our parents were proud. We did something with the road trip and whatnot. But then they put us on a media tour, and the day we got on NBC's Today Show became the 15th best-selling book in America on Amazon. For the next 4 months, there was kind of this big media onslaught, and we had the chance at that point to work on a development partnership with MTV to put other students on road trips. And we were kind of feeling this as we went across the country on the speaking tour to schools, that even though the book was selling well, it wasn't really enough for other students. They didn't want to live. They were inspired by the book, and it was selling well, so the publisher was happy, but the students didn't want to just be inspired or live vicariously through our road trip. They really wanted their own opportunities to kind of see what was out there and see what they could do with their lives. And increasingly, we were going to a lot of places like California Central Valley, Orosi, Fresno County, Southeast Fresno County, where students didn't have a lot of social capital and didn't have a lot of opportunities to see what they could do with their future. And we started to think maybe this could be bigger than a book. Maybe this could be a real grassroots platform or program that really empowers students to explore their own pathways for their future. So it's kind of a long story from there until now, but we slowly kind of moved away from the MTV thing early on because they wanted to vote people off the motorhome, and they literally wanted the RV to explode at the end of the season. So that's how we ended up at PBS. The people from PBS said, you can come to PBS. If you come to PBS, you don't have to vote anyone off the motorhome. You can do mission-based content. You can have longevity. Shows here are built over decades, but you can also maintain the rights to everything you produce. And we didn't understand the importance of the rights component because we were 22 years old. But as we got deeper into putting students on road trips year after year, and Anthony Berryhill right here is one of actually the first students to ever go on a Road Trip Nation trip, a long time ago. And now he went on to get his PhD, and he now works at an education company here in Austin, and he's part of the conference. This is awesome, full circle. So after so many years of putting students on road trips and kind of being diligent about and thoughtful about the content development, we started to realize that we have all the rights to all this massive library, and that the value of the content could be much more beneficial for students if done not just in an episodic way, but in a database way. And so that's when we started building out kind of the Road Trip Nation education platform, which for the past 5 years has been a primary focus for Road Trip Nation, not just doing our media platform, but really going deeper into schools. And we scaled pretty significantly through middle school and high schools across the country through a range of key kind of distribution partnerships. And then the last year and a half, once we joined the Strata Education Network affiliation, that's really opened new doors for us to think about higher ed as well, and how do we bring our tools and resources to post-secondary. Because we all know that once students get to college, they're still thinking about what they want to do with their life. So that's been a big focus for us, is how do we kind of help students at all inflection points of their path to keep navigating. And I think we'll talk a little about that today, but ASU is one of our first kind of primary higher ed partnerships, and we're doing some really exciting work with them that we think is pretty neat. So.
Could you actually touch on that, Mike? Maybe
Sure.
just touch a little bit on the partnership with ASU, how that developed, what
Yeah.
you're doing exactly.
So there was a study done on our program by the Hewlett Foundation a few years back and the John Gardner Center at Stanford School of Ed, and they said that there was greater self-efficacy growth in the students who went through Road Trip Nation curriculum and programs and whatnot, when you could more deeply reflect the same kind of social backgrounds and barriers and interests that and kind of shared institutions that they might have. And so we started to think, what if we could do Road Trip Nation institution by institution, essentially. And around that time, we also had a partnership with the Gates Foundation, where we developed a technology platform called the Share Your Road platform, where in addition to driving around America filming people's stories, we have a technology platform where anyone could come to the platform to share their roads of how they got to where they are. And since it's a platform, we can be more granular with the data we're collecting as well in a way that's hard to do in video. So we can ask people, were you first in your family to go to college? What were the steps you took to get where you are today? Were you first, did you have a learning and attention issue? What part of the country did you grow up in? What type of hurdles did you overcome? Did you work as a waiter or a bartender? All the stuff that you kind of omit from your LinkedIn profile because it's not vice president worthy or something. And so the neat thing is that since this platform is, we can customize it for institutions. So that was really kind of the impetus of working with ASU is can we create a Road Trip Nation Share Your Road platform for ASU alumni, the 400-some thousand alumni that are out there that, think of all of those rich stories of people that are out there defining their own roads in life, working to make a difference in their communities. And at scale, the aggregate of all of those stories, you can triangulate for incoming students and current students just to get more visibility of career pathways based on people that, I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, I'm into engineering, I'm first gen, and I have a learning and attention issue. Here is a whole cohort of alumni that are like me. And we knew from that early research that the self-efficacy growth would be that much better. So that's just, and we're doing a road trip. We're doing an Arizona road trip. So we're literally putting students on the road across the state. They're halfway through their road trip right now. So that's pretty cool too. We're really localizing the content. I think in the past we've done these big national trips, but now we're trying to go local and more institution-based so that when students can explore content in our archive, they're seeing people with shared institutional backgrounds, shared parts of the country. So.
Great. Thank you so much. So I want to take just a quick break to ask a couple of questions. Then I think we're going to talk about impact and do another video presentation, and then we'll engage directly with you all on any questions you have for our panelists here. So to Edmundo and Missy, a question about what was it with each of these organizations that really drew you to the partnership based on what you've described around the mission and the focus at ASU? Where did you see alignment in these engagements?
I think we're afforded the opportunity at Arizona State University to have conversations, explore, pursue partnerships, and we pursue those partnerships that align with our vision, mission, charter, where we're headed, what we're doing. And I think both of these examples are two examples of that. I'll share a little bit. I think it was actually Larry who actually helped make the introduction to Mike. So networking works. It's a good thing, right? Here's a plug for networking, right? That's why we're all here. Keep doing it. But what we know about the organizations, what we know about the people behind the organizations, what we know about what they're trying to accomplish, very much align with everything we're trying to do as well, whether it's helping students at younger ages, the college readiness and building that, coming into a university while they're at the university, finding those role models and mentors, right? We talk about grit a lot, right, and persistence. So if they can see a video or something and, right, pick themselves back up and keep moving, if it's tied to reducing indebtedness, helping a student figure out how to pay for college, those kinds of things. So I think there was great alignment with both organizations and who we are as an institution and what we're trying to accomplish and how we're trying to help students.
Larry talked about student debt. How many of you graduated, with student loans? Yeah. I had student loans, credit card loans, family loans, friend loans. I got all, you know what? And I worked full time, while going to school, right? So right now at ASU, 70% of our students work, 70%. When they graduate, 65% of our students have student debt. And the average student debt is about $22,000. So as we think about, the springboard, if you will, for a lot of our young graduates and the opportunities they have, many of them, they don't want to be saddled with that debt and or that investment in their education, right? So for us, this partnership, this relationship that offered not just a work experience, but also the opportunity, to not incur student debt, right? Because, as Larry talked about, both the payment as well as the tuition assistance, it really allows our students to graduate debt-free, right? Again, because of their academic performance, because of what they're able to achieve. So for us, this was a big issue. This was a big item that we wanted to tackle, and we were looking for partners that had, similar missions, similar purposes. We had worked previously with another entity that had similar aspirations. The problem was that they had aspiration, but they had no track record and no performance. And so when we found education at work, and they came to us with a model that at first it sounded too good to be true. At first it was like, really? What's the catch, right? And there was no catch, right? It was really building a partnership that ultimately was student-centric, right? That ultimately had the bells and whistles that not only attracted our students, but it also helped to build their resume, their capacity, and hopefully a springboard, to a pretty nice company, right? In PayPal, and other companies that are trying to hire, many of our students. So it really ended up being a really nice match that, again, their priorities are priorities, and ultimately the focus on our students.
I don't think we can overestimate the power of just mission alignment, right?
Yes.
And that connection between the missions of all of us sitting
Absolutely.
up here. To Larry and to Mike, could you talk a little bit about some of the impact that you've witnessed so far in each of these partnerships? Maybe drill down a little bit for us, what you've seen, especially with the students.
Sure. So one really important early and frankly very encouraging indication of impact was when we began recruiting students for the Tempe Center at ASU. We received in the course literally of about 48 hours, 700 applications for how many initial? 400 initial openings. So clearly, there was significant demand for on-campus professional part-time employment.
So that's just a rough cut from the interview because we're literally in production right now and all this stuff. But it is really neat to kind of get out there and see like how many stories are out there. I mean, there are 400,000 ASU alumni all over the country, and just even mining into a few of those has just been. What a diamond in the rough. You know, he was just named a Forbes 30 under 30 for the list of healthcare. He raised $2 million for his startup to build his device. Like, it's currently going through FDA approval right now. I mean, just amazing, the wealth of stories, you know, that are out there. And then we also developed, this is an example of of one of the profiles on the Share Your Road, on the ASU Share Your Road platform. And if you want to check out the pilot site, it's asu.shareyourroad.com to kind of see what a Road Trip Nation Share Your Road platform looks like when it's institution specific for something like ASU. But you have a high quality video of someone like Vivek, but you've also got this woman here, Barry Wald. She's an area programs manager for the USO, who works on implementing programs to help veterans, transition from service to civilian life. She's also an ASU alumni, and so through the platform, we're also able to do outreach. We're not going to be able to produce high-quality videos of like all ASU alumni, but the technology platform allows a place for any alumni to come to upload their stories. And when you pair something like a road trip or this kind of beautiful high-quality content development, in many ways, the digital call to action alongside that to really inspire all alumni to pay it forward and kind of share their story with the next generation. I mean, we probably all know this, like you get phone calls from your institutions like to donate money or donate $10 or $20 or whatever, but like to reach out to alumni and say, actually, we really value and celebrate your stories, and we want to create a repository of your stories and insights to pass on to current generations of students that went to the same institution you went to. So these are just kind of but I mean, at the core of it, it's real people's stories. I think that we can all go to the Department of Labor's jobs database and see what it's like to be a graphic designer, and it will say you must know how to use electronic mail and a word processor, and all, but it's like I think when students are thinking about really who they are and what do they want to be with their future, it goes deeper than just like the clinical aspect of like career, jobs, exposure and the data and all. I mean, obviously that's all important, but we think what's really lacking is like people humanizing the experience. Finding your road in life should not be like going to the DMV to get your driver's license. It's a deeper, more reflective experience, and seeding that search and exploration with real people's stories and doing it. We think institution by institution, so students can see people who went to the same place they went to school, had the same backgrounds. Maybe we're even in the same program. Maybe we're also first gen. We think tightens that experience. So,
Right. Thank you, Mike. Larry, I know that you all also have a video highlighting some of the impact that you all have had with your work. Do you want to say anything before I kind of roll the
No, you can just
footage?
roll it. This is just some students working for Education at Work at the ASU Center at Tempe, basically sharing their impressions of the experience.
Great. That's great. I think two really powerful examples of partnership. And so with that, we have a good 20 minutes, and what I would like to do is actually use this time to hear from you all questions that you have for any of our panelists, or even just engage in a conversation about the work they're doing and your reactions to what we've talked about today.